In a previous YouTube video series, I showed you step by step how to make an ancient style of arrow that was used by Utsi the Iceman more than 5,000 years ago. In this video, we will show you how to make an ancient style of arrow that was used to hunt reindeer thousands of years ago in Norway. I will base this style of arrow on recent archaeological finds that were discovered by scientists studying melting Norwegian snow patches. One of the oldest examples of a Norwegian arrow was dated to be over 5,300 years old. This incomplete shaft was made out of pine and broken into 6 separate pieces. The broken section containing the nock of the arrow was never recovered. However, the tip of the arrow was located, which contained a deep V groove which fit some kind of Neolithic hunting point. A second, more complete arrow was also discovered, which carbon dated to be more than 5,300 years old. This arrow shaft is made out of the shoot from a plant in the willow family. Although broken, it is one of the most complete arrows in this group. The tip of this arrow showed a deep V groove which held a slate point, which was held in with black adhesive and sinew lashing. The back of this arrow shows a shallow, slightly flared nock and remnants of black adhesive and spiraled sinew lashings, which were used to secure the fletchings onto the arrow. The third artifact carbon dated to be over 5,100 years old and consisted of a short fragment of arrow shaft made out of pine and a long slate-tipped arrowhead that was held on with black adhesive and sinew lashing. The fourth artifact consisted of an incomplete arrow shaft made out of a birch sapling that was found in 2 fragments. No point or nock was discovered on this arrow, and it was carbon dated to be about 3,900 years old. The fifth artifact was a complete arrow shaft made out of birch and carbon dated to be at least 3,600 years old. No point was found on the shaft, however 2 strips of sinew lashing were found near the nock end of the arrow. Norwegian researchers have also discovered a large number of arrow fragments that date to around 300 AD and consist of iron hunting points that both have the tang and socket design. The wood on these shafts are typically made out of birch or pine. Because Artifact 2 is the most complete arrow shaft in the group, we will use its characteristics to make an ancient style of Norwegian arrow. We'll start by making a ground slate arrowhead. I did not have a good source of natural slate, so I used a slate tile that was purchased in a home improvement store. The primitive method for making a slate hunting point would be to find a naturally occurring thin piece of slate and grind it into the shape of the arrowhead. However, to best utilize the limited material I had, I cheated and used a diamond tip tile saw to cut my slate into thin strips. These strips of slate tile were much too thick and needed to be split in half in order to make arrowheads. Slate contains a natural grain and can be split like firewood using a sharp rock and a hammer stone, or I found even better using a chisel and a hammer. A primitive method to make a slate arrowhead is to shape the edges using a hammerstone and then grind the edges sharp using an abrasive piece of hard rock. However, I figure since I already cheated enough using a slate tile and a wet saw, I might as well finish it using my new homemade foot-powered grinder. The next step is to make your arrow shaft either out of birch, pine, or willow. The tip should have a V groove cut into it that snugly fits your slate-tipped arrow, and the back of the arrow should have a slightly flared shallow nock. It is unclear what the black adhesive used to secure the point and fletching onto the arrow is made out of. Possible options can include pine pitch glue, which is made out of pine resin, charcoal, and an organic binder, or birch tar, which I've shown how to make in previous videos. To secure your fletchings, begin by spreading a thin layer of pine pitch glue or birch tar along the back of the arrow. Then attach your feather fletchings with the warm natural black adhesive glue and secure the fletchings with a spiral wrapping of wet sinew. The final step is to glue the slate point onto the tip of the arrow using the warm black adhesive glue. Then wrap the base of the arrowhead with wet sinew in order to secure the arrowhead to the shaft. Now you have an ancient style of arrow that was used to hunt reindeer in the Arctic regions of Norway more than 5,000 years ago.